Hey there. So far on the boat, I am at 61 and a half hours. That's windshield on up to this point. So video number 7 is rear bench seat engine lid. I have yet to put one of these together, but just by looking at it, I think I'm gonna assemble the base and the backrest together to get tack those. I'm going to tack these pieces on the kick panels and tack all those, and then I'm also going to close this gap here, tack that from the inside, both sides, and wire wheel everything, of course, before I start tacking, because it's just easier to do beforehand. And then I'm gonna put a brace across here, make sure that both those kick panels are directly in line. I'm also going to check my end measurement and make sure that I'm well within the distance across here. After that point, I'm going to tack the backrest on, and I'm also going to brace 90 degrees from the backrest to this piece. That way I know I'm straight across the top, straight down in the center. Once that brace is on, I'm also going to fit the brace that goes across this midsection. All right, wire wheel time. This section is assembled. A little tiny issue. This distance across here is exactly 15 5/8. Now this is exactly 15 5/8. So I want to take a little material off of each end, just like a 16th off each end. That way I'll have an open corner bead just like these. And this, I want that open corner so I can sink weld into there, and then I'll be able to maintain that coming straight back. So that's what I'm up to next. So it worked out well fitting these pieces together first, like just the bench with kick panel, seat, backrest together first. Actually, no, it was, seat, backrest, tacked all those together. And then I made sure just my top corners were lined up first. I didn't worry about anything else back there. One tack there, and then I flipped it over, and then you can see, make sure you're straight on both sides. Then came around to this piece. All I did was make sure I'm flush with the end there on both sides, and then I threw a tack right here, making sure I have a little open corner, and then tack here, there, and then up. Pushing up, close this gap, tacks on the inside. Same on both, and then coming around, when I assembled this section, tack there, up. And that's where it sits now. I wanted this side to be flush on the outside, and that's where it brought me that 15 5/8, which is the same as this. Sure enough, I could lay this right on top and weld on the side there, but these will all be sanded down. I like an open corner bead just to sink more material into. So I'm going to zip this with my skill saw, and then I'll get to tacking one more time. What I'm probably going to do is hold it down a little bit lower, get 2 tacks, one there, and then I'll raise it up, and then it'll be the same height as this, and then I'll start to tack down and down. That's my plan. We'll see what happens. So, ran into an issue with fitment. It's pretty clear, if I can remember where I put my tape measure. There it is. And it really sucks because I have to do more trimming, and it's not my fault. At least I don't think so. You guys tell me. So I've got from there to the back of the edge of the backrest, 14 3/4. If I want to get, it's almost 14 13/16, where this piece is gonna have to line up and come around the back here. And so I measure this. This is only 14 and almost an eighth, 14 7/16. So I have to trim off material all across this back side so that it will sit up further. I'm like, God, almost a ½ inch gap across here. And I don't know if anybody else has had this issue, but I'm not very stoked right now. So that being said, now I have to make a perfect mark all the way along there. Luckily, I'll show you guys, this little bad boy does radius cuts, like damn near perfect. So I'm gonna draw my lines, both sides, and start that cutting. See if I can get a good shot of how well these things do with radius cutting. See how that does there. Set my depth of my blade because I don't want to go any deeper than I have to, because you can cut a tighter radius with your blade only going 1/8 deep rather than the whole blade sinking in. Now this does scratch the aluminum a little bit, but you know, it's all being painted and vinyl wrapped and Ultra Deck, so it's all good. Corners, instead of cutting too far, I just grab a jigsaw try to do the least amount of zip disc cutting on aluminum. And then take that off. I'm just gonna zip this. This back corner is probably gonna have to be trimmed off as well, straight down there, while maintaining that angle. So for now, I'm just gonna zip that off, cut the other side, and then see how she fits. That's that. Okay, so once I had it all tacked in there, it's wobbling around like crazy. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna make sure I'm 90 degrees from here. So, got a tack on here where I'm flush with the top of this angle piece. That's it there. And then I got it on the table. And I know my table's flat. So then I just went and got a square. Best idea I could come up with. And just made sure I was square across the bottom. Coming across to here. Right there. And then I threw one tack just on the inside of there while I had a clamp on here. It's a little bit sticking out, but I know I can get a good bead in there. And I know this piece is the right diameter for the boat. This one ended up fitting pretty nicely. I'm gonna push on there and close that gap up as much as I can. This one is a little bit gappy. I'm gonna double check whether or not I can pull or twist, but that half moon shape is going in here anyway. So as long as I get a couple tacks on that, and then that half moon shape is gonna close up all of that gap. Not worried at all. I'm gonna put more tacks in here, and I'll be putting lots in the back here, because when you're TIG welding, there's so much expansion and contraction with because you're sitting in one spot longer than you are with MIG. That's why I always tack everything with the spool gun, because you're like zap zap and you're done. If you have to sit there and wait for your metal to puddle before you can even add a little bit of filler, it's gonna take off on you, especially stuff this thin. So yeah, I'm gonna get a lot more tacks in here, all across the back side of this whole thing. Just build up the strength a lot before I start TIG welding the front side. And that is that. Now I'm gonna fit this center brace. I may even put in some flat bar up on an angle like that. I've got a bunch of flat bar I can use. And that's about it. Just add a little more strength for when people are standing on it. Okay, so we are entirely tacked together. Oh, minus the couple, there's a little bit of burn through there, a little bit up here from that underneath brace. I did put this fat ass aluminum brace across the top while I was putting these in, because you have to apply quite a bit of pressure to get them to fit. I did give them like a bit of a pre-bend, just like, you know, pushing them along the edge of the table, you know, just by hand, just to help form it just a little bit. They both fit slightly different from each other. I started with this one and I was going like this. I was putting it on top of this piece like this, but it just wasn't closing down on the bottom, even pushing it down. And then it was coming way out to here on this side, like it wasn't gonna meet up with this edge. So I took all the tacks off and I started to put it, well, it looks like that one pulled out a little bit, but I wanted to put it underneath of the top piece, so it's like behind it and pushing up on this backrest, and then it ended up fitting perfect all the way across. But this one I tried to do the same, and it started to not want to close down on the bottom, and it was shooting far up that way. So I undid the tacks, as you can see, and then I restarted how I wanted to do that one in the beginning, is have it on top of the backrest. So they both fit slightly different. I have no idea why, but they're both on, and after they're welded, you'll never know. While I was pushing down on these, I've got a jack stand and a wheel chock holding it up. That way I could apply some pressure, and a bunch of wood holding up the center on that rib. And then I added way more tacks on the inside because I don't want anything to move while I'm welding on the other side. I'm gonna run TIG on all that inside corners because those will all stay as visible welds, minus where the seat cushions are gonna go. Yeah, all in all, it all fit extremely well, other than having to trim. What did I trim? Oh yeah, I trimmed this and the backrest. Yeah, she is good to go. Good to weld up for tomorrow. And actually, before I weld it up, we'll drop it in here, give it a little test fit. All right, it is weld time for the rear bench. We are all assembled. Let's do those after. I've got tons of tacks on the inside just to hold everything really well. I've got a fat ass brace across the top because welding this seam, I'm afraid things are just gonna start to take off. I could probably have this a bit closer to those moon shapes, but should be good. And then on the bottom, to keep this kick panels in line, I've got some more bracing there, close to where your knees would go, and then down near the bottom. I didn't have any room for clamps if I'm on the bench like this, so I've got a couple tacks right there. Just two small ones just to hold that center. And yeah, should be good to go. Lots of tacks up here. Actually should throw a few more in here. Actually I will. And yeah, we are good. Alrighty, go time. I've got all my outside corner welding done. I didn't worry too much about keeping it super clean and profile because all my outside corners I'm going to sand down and round off. But all my inside corners, I'm going to take off all these little nubs, sand those off so that I don't have anything underneath my weld. because I want that to look seamless, even though there's a backrest going on. Yeah, so I just have these insides to do and this inside corner weld here. You want to put lots of tacks along here because of the heat. Say if I only have one there and one there, like those are the original spool gun tacks, this base metal could sink down. It could sink down, and then you've got a massive gap to fill. Then your whole piece, this whole panel is doing this all across. You can almost see just from even tacking it. It's hard to see through the camera and the light, but it already has started to dip in certain sections. Okay, so, and I'm also, because when the hatch is lifted up, I'm also gonna TIG weld this outside corner, and I'll probably leave it visible weld because it'll just look super duper nice when it's lifted up too. I'm not gonna bother welding everything on the bottom side. There's really no point. Okay, that's that. And I'm gonna bounce around. So throughout this whole thing, I started here, I did a little bit here, did a little bit here, just bounced around the whole thing, did one big circle, and then started again on this side. You don't want to put all the heat in one spot all at once. So I'm gonna do maybe just 2 inches, 2 inches, and then maybe 2 inches here, 2 inches here, 2 inches here, vice versa. Just go around the whole thing. Don't put too much heat in one spot. All right, here we go. Okay, I wanted you guys to see this. Because this is a sealed thing, TIG welding this, a lot of oxygen, because you're welding, oxygen just gets pulled out, but it's being pulled from underneath and like over here, oxygen just being pulled through, it attracts through the weld. So I'm getting tons of impurities floating on top. The bead profile looks like garbage. It's not consistent at all. The weld wants to favor one side of the metal, then the bead drops down to the other side, in turn making the profile sort of sloppy and all over the place. So what I'm gonna have to do is purge underneath here. So from underneath, I'm gonna drill a hole, tap it, and thread it. 3/8 national course, and then I can put my gas hose on there and then push argon up through as I'm welding. I've got a dual regulator for purging. I can throw 5 on this side and my regular 25 on that side. And yeah. But that's the wrong bottle. I'm gonna have to throw the regulator on my argon. And yeah, so drill and tap time. Not fun. Okay, I've got my hole there with my purge line. I mask off everything so that oxygen cannot go in. Mask off ahead of your weld. So the only argon in here is going to be pushing out right around your weld. I also want to keep my tape a little bit further away from the weld because I don't want the glue to come off the tape and stick to the metal, and then it turns all brown and gross. And I want to keep as much sanding marks off of this as I can. Same with this side. And where it was dirty with all the impurities, just grind that down, take that out. And again on this side, mask off underneath so that oxygen can't get in there. And yeah, we should be good to go. The only problem with this is I can only do one at a time unless I actually, yeah, take the gas line off, put it over here, but I might just, yeah, I'll probably do that. Just because I want to still bounce around and weld the insides too on that. I don't know, we'll see. I'm gonna start on this one though and go and grab my purge line over here. There we go. It's already got the regulator fittings on it. So here we go. Try this again and then I'll show you the weld after, and it should look really nice. Okay, welding that is already 100 times better, 10 times cleaner. And it almost makes me want to gouge all that out and restart, but I'm not going to. It is what it is. After paint, you won't see it anyway. So I'm gonna set this back up. I've got the purge off. I'm only gonna weld 2 inches, turn the purge off. Hopefully I remember to turn it back on because I do still want to bounce around. All right. Okay, this rear bench is pretty much done. I've got some heat marks from the brace from underneath, so I'm going to sand those down, give it a polish a little better than that. All the outside corners are sanded down, looking good. These beads inside here are good enough. Outside, so you can see where it's looking like garbage. I'm not complete garbage, but I just wasn't happy with it. And then once I started purging from here over, profile's much better, but I don't know. I'm undecided whether I take that bead rate down to nothing, sanded, for when the vinyl wrap goes on. This one's about the same. Sloppy. I don't know. I know I can do better, but I was running out of time. All in all, pretty happy with the fitment. There's a few issues, had to trim, but all in all, it's pretty good. All right, that's it for that. Next, tomorrow, I'm gonna throw some hinges on there and get her dialed in. This guy's up on jack stands. I still have yet to weld out the chines, stitch weld those on. And I'm undecided whether I want to put the Lexan on the inside of the window or the outside. Yeah. I don't know. I like it both ways. My last boat was on the outside, but yeah, figure it out tomorrow, because welding this brace, if I have it on the inside, I'm pretty sure this brace, Lexan's got to go in first before you put this guy on, and this has to be trimmed ever so slightly. But that's it. See ya.